these microphones and the cameras operational?
Yes.
Yep.
That's good. Those people out back here can't hear a thing. That fan back there, you can't hear a thing. What's going on out here?
Okay, all right. Well, there's space to move up, of course, but point well taken. We'll see if we can
It's all
speak
being
up a
live
little bit.
streamed.
Live stream, beautiful.
All right, so you're here for two properties. Do you want to discuss in a particular order?
I'd like to deal with Brattle first.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is swear you in, read in some information, and then I will turn it back over to you. So if you can raise your right hand, state your name for the record.
Michael R. Franklin.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Since 1791, there's been a separation of church and state in this country. I really would rather talk about the facts, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I do swear to tell the truth. How about that? Work for you?
That works.
It's just starting off with that. It's just after 232 years, we're still talking about that. You know, I want to talk about the facts, full market value adjusted for unequal, because
All right.
we have to talk about adjusted for unequal here because we're not full market value.
Okay, so let me just read in some numbers here, and then we'll go from there.
You swear to tell the truth.
And that's fine. Yep, no, thank you, and I appreciate your position. So we have 7 Brattle Road, and we have a current, this is single-family residence. We have a current tentative assessed value of $354,000 with a land value of $49,900. That equates to a market value. Yes, 548,837. 548,837.
Also, in this case, I'd asked,
Let me just finish up a couple numbers here.
okay,
548,837. Petitioner believes the fair market value is $450,000. And that would equate to an assessed value of $290,250.
sir, what is your name? Tom Johnson. What's your function? Oh, okay, thank you. So you handle Brattle Road? Okay.
Okay, and this is property 15 for the board's edification. Okay, so go ahead and tell me what the situation is here.
Sure. First of all, I'd asked your law department to have Mr. Mujtaba Termitsi.
I'd like to step in really quick and just remind Mr. Franklin that FOIL is separate from the bar. If you'd like to talk about the facts of the bar, that's perfectly acceptable, but a FOIL request is not applicable to the bar proceedings as they currently happen. That's the proper venue.
It most certainly is relevant. But in other words, he's not going to be here because he doesn't want to be accountable for his work,
Mr. Franklin, it is...
which is a common theme.
Mr. Franklin, it is the improper venue to bring up an administrative proceeding such as FOIL.
I think you need to hear what I have to say before you can make that determination, sir. Don't you think?
No,
No?
no.
So you know what I'm going to say before I say it? So he's not going to show up is the bottom line?
He is not going to show up.
Okay, that's all we need to know.
This is not a
That's all I
FOIL
need to know
appeal
from you.
hearing.
That's all I need to know from you, sir.
Sir, I would like to remind you that according to state law.
That's all I have for you, sir. We have 10 minutes.
Sir, I would like to remind you that under state law, it is impermissible to record people without their consent, without their informed consent. If you have a recording
This isn't
device-
Vermont or California, sir.
If you have a recording device on you, I respectfully ask that you turn it off.
You can respectfully ask.
Okay.
Denied. Okay, so, shall I proceed?
I'm not sure.
That's up to the board to determine if he has to turn it off, not him. You don't make that decision.
This is, every meeting is open, it's on YouTube, it can be replayed, so I don't think we need anything else as far as recording is concerned.
I think you do. That's my opinion. And this is a public hearing.
So let me defer to Corporation Counsel,
Do you work for the council or are you a separate entity?
separate entity.
Okay. He's not your attorney. He's the city attorney.
We
city is
are
my-
under their purview.
The city is the client of the law department as a body of the city. Therefore, the bar is
Okay, so the guy's not gonna show up. Can we proceed?
No, I think based on the situation, I'm gonna ask you to turn off the.
Well, I wouldn't blame you for wanting to do that because I wouldn't want to be, for what you guys are doing, I wouldn't want to be accountable either. I don't blame you.
Sir,
There-
this meeting is
again,
being recorded.
yes.
To say that there's no accountability.
Look,
is-
the police don't want to be
is
recorded
outrageous.
either, but they're getting used to it, okay? And you need to get used to it.
Well,
The entire room is being recorded and live streamed at this
Yeah, I know, but I
time.
don't know if the quality of your recording is good enough for my
You
purposes.
can look it up on YouTube right now. if you
It's
would
not
like
good
to.
enough. It's not good enough.
Would you like to look it up right now?
So can we stick to the facts here?
Are you gonna turn off your recording?
I am not.
Well, then, I don't think we're proceeding.
I don't think it's
Mr.
your,
Chair,
I don't think it's your
prefer to
call.
use the city's position is that the recording in this room is sufficient. It is sufficient for common council. It is sufficient for
a
every
public
other-
meeting.
It is sufficient for every other board.
is a public
There's
meeting.
there's no
There's no
necessary
rape
reason-
victim to protect. There's
Mr.
no
Franklin.
children to protect. There's nothing more public than assessment matters.
All right, so-
Nothing.
Mr. Franklin, I would like you to let me finish.
Go ahead and
speaking.
finish, except that this isn't your meeting. This is his meeting.
Right, so here's what my thoughts are. Because this is on YouTube, and I've actually seen it, you can hear fine, so there's no issues. I'm gonna ask you to turn it off. Your main thought here is that you should be representing the homeowners, property owners of these properties. So I'm gonna make the decision that you either turn that off, or we will adjourn, and then you'll have to answer to your home.
Well, I'd like to adjourn it anyway until I get the assessor's data that they've refused, that they violated FOIL and refused to provide. But I'll turn this off for you.
Okay,
There you go. It's inappropriate, and I object.
okay, that's fine, that's fine. All right, so with that, 7 Brattle Road.
Okay, first of all, I'm certain the majority of the issues that the assessor has to deal with people who misplace the difference between high taxes and a high assessment. I'm not one of those people. I'm not here for that. Okay? And I can appreciate the difficulty that he has, and I do respect the difficulty of the job of the assessor. He has more than 41,000 properties to deal with. However, he's collecting money, the city's collecting money from more than 41,000 properties. And when you take, and they've already been paid to do that job, and we're at 64.5% equalization rate, which is why we're here today. If you were at 100%, we wouldn't be here today, more than likely. Because, you're getting paid to do a job and you're not doing it. And I'm gonna say that's not the assessor's fault. That's probably the mayor's fault but he's paid to do the job, and I know it's a difficult job, and I know it costs money, but you need to do it, because what happens is it creates unequal situations. And I'm here for 2 cases that are unequal. And if we're at 100%, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Okay.
Okay, that's as far as the burden of proof is concerned. The assessor is correct if he's within 10%. But right off the bat, he's off by 35.5%, right from the get-go. So he cannot be presumed to be correct. So I foiled the data, and I foiled tell me if you think it would be appropriate to have this kind of a data at a bar assessment hearing. Comparable sales report, comparable assessment report, cost report, assessment card, and all inventory data. That's what I thought that that would be good data to have, so we can compare apples and apples, but they refuse to provide it, and these people are backing them up. Let me read to you how it is that they denied it.
Are we talking about 7 Brattle?
I'm talking about 7 Brattle Road.
Sir, I would like to remind you that that a FOIL proceeding, as long as your administrative remedies are still pending. This
I'm
is
talking
not
about the
proper-
credibility of, I'm talking about the credibility
Mr.
of these
Franklin,
people.
this is not the
Can I
proper venue to
proceed?
bring up a FOIL
Can I
proceeding.
proceed?
You can proceed. Let me just remind you that you've got 10 minutes per property.
Yeah.
And.
It's
I
you
think
guys
really should-
have been entering, you have tied up the time, not me.
Okay.
Let me finish here. Your request is denied per 87-2G, which permits an agency to deny access to records that constitute interagency or intra-agency materials are deemed non-final. Okay, so that section meets my argument, not theirs. Each 87-2G, each agency shall, in accordance with its published rules, make available for public inspection and copying of all records, except that such agency may deny records to records or portions thereof that are interagency or intra-agency materials, which is what he's saying, which are not statistical or factual tabulations or data, which is what it is that I asked for.
7 Brattle Road, and what does this have to do with?
Okay? I'm just telling you that they refused to give me the data so we can have a productive hearing. So we are not going to have a productive hearing today, and we're going to go to SCAR.
It'd be easy for
But,
you to
however,
discuss the market value of 7 Brattle Road.
I have no data to discuss it with. My client says that there is a variety of houses that are superior or better, or as good or better than his, that are assessed for less. He is adamant about that. I don't have the data to establish that. So
all
I'm gonna have to
publicly
wait for
available
these people to
information.
give me my data so we can deal with it at SCAR.
That's all publicly available information. You don't need
No, it
to
is not.
reveal that. Sure
No, it is not. I need is comparable, I need to compare apples and apples. I need the comparable sales report, so I know exactly what properties they're using for comps. I need the comparable assessment report. I need their inventory
We are
report.
on the second
And I
line
need
of
it,
that.
and I need the inventory for each of the properties
We're on
he's
the second
considering
10
as
minutes.
comparable, so we can compare apples and apples. So the bottom line is, we cannot have a hearing on this property today. And so what I'm gonna ask you to do is you live right around the corner from this property. You're familiar with the area. I'm not familiar with the area. So I'm gonna ask you to take a look at it and do what you think is right. That's all. That's all I'm asking you to do. I'm just telling you, there's a lot of irregularities, what's going on with this assessor. Deny. And so I'm just gonna ask you to take a look at that one.
How do you know where he lives?
How do I know how, I would have used him as a comp, but it's not a comp. But he lives right around the corner, and I analyze his property. I see that the assessment is, all the fat's been trimmed off his assessment. I've seen that perfectly. I would ask that the fat be trimmed off of this one. Okay? Isn't that fair?
Fair enough.
Isn't that fair? Okay, so, my client is adamant that there are other properties that are good or better. I haven't been in all the properties, but he's been in a lot of them, and I'm certain you've been in a lot of them. So I'm just asking you to do what's fair and reasonable.
Absolutely.
So, but I had to point out a few irregularities as to this process that I find upsetting.
All right, that's fine, no issues there. The only thing I would say to you is that you didn't give us too much information.
I didn't give you any information. I didn't give you any. I gave you zero information, zero.
But the burden of proof is on you to give us the
Right.
information to use.
I know it is, but I think the point that I'm trying to make to you is, if the assessor doesn't cooperate and provide the data, this board is pointless.
Again,
The market
it's up to
provides the
you
data.
to, yeah, do
I
you
know,
have
I'm
access
just gonna go to
the-
SCAR, I'm just gonna go to SCAR when I get the data, okay?
Do you
But
have,
you wanna waste everybody's time with this nonsense, that's what we'll do.
do you have access to the MLS system?
I do not. I don't belong to your MLS.
Okay, because that's where, if you're representing.
No, I want the city's data so we can compare apples and apples. It's public information. Is there a problem with that?
No, and I think.
Well, there
isn't a
obviously
book
is.
That's available.
There's a book with sales downstairs, so we make it more than easy.
I foiled it and you did not provide it.
If you would come in and not been,
Look, if I have to sue the city every time I don't get a foil, it's gonna be ridiculous.
go ahead.
All right.
Okay, this gentleman is asking us to totally ignore the $675,000 purchase price from 2017. The $753,500.
That's right, he's pinning the sale.
Wait, I'm talking, not
Go
you,
ahead and talk.
Okay? Now hear me. He hasn't proved his case, he hasn't given us any evidence, so we're gonna recommend that he dismisses it. And then he's asking a value that's over $200,000 less than what you paid, your client paid for it. What diminished the value? Prove it.
Sounds like selective assessment to me.
It's not selective assessment. It's not even assessing what.
Why would you bring it up? Why would you bring the purchase price up?
Because it's relevant.
It's not relevant.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I would like to,
Establish the market standard.
I would just like to-
You're a real estate broker, you should know that.
I do know it.
All right.
All right.
My client has said,
Gentlemen,
my client has said,
gentlemen,
there's numerous properties that are as good or better than his that are assessed for less. That's what the argument is. It's unequal. If you people had this at 100%, we wouldn't have this conversation.
gentlemen, I would just like to.
It's him that's running the meeting
state
to
for
allow
the
you to
record-
talk.
I'm just calling balls and strikes, my man. I would just like to point out for the record that bar assessment hearings are not supposed to be contentious and combative, and that we are trying to work in the context of the bar grievance hearings to be collegial and polite with each other, and I would just like to remind everyone to be courteous and polite with each other, and that's.
And I asked the city to honor New York State FOIL. That's what I asked. So, anything that I have said is not
We have-
intended
we
to
have
be
another
contentious.
folder
It hasn't been
too.
intended to be contentious.
right,
I'm
we're
just
gonna-
telling it like it is. That's all I'm doing.
All right, we're gonna move on, and I should have asked you for your feedback. Do you want to add anything else, or you're good? Okay. All right, so let's move on to 202 Parish Lane. Let me just read some numbers in. The city has submitted some information regarding 7 Brattle Road. We'll take that into consideration as well as what the petitioner has offered as far as verbal feedback, and then we'll make a decision. 202 Parish Lane. Let me just read the numbers into the record. It's going to be number 16 based on the board's information. We, let's see, is this a single-family residence?
It is.
Okay, so we have a current tentative assessment of $96,000, with a land value of $15,600. That is an equatable market value of $148,837. Petitioner believes the fair market value is $132,923, which would bring the assessed value down to $85,735. Okay. I turn it over to you.
Does everybody have a copy of my petition and the addendum?
I don't think everybody does. I think we have.
It's in the folder.
We have
There's
the
not
information in the
or there's not
folder.
four.
So you're the only one that has a copy?
Right now.
So nobody's looked at the petition?
Not as of yet.
Yeah, okay. Well, it would be important for everyone to have a copy of this. I don't know if you recall the Syracuse.com article about what's going on with the assessments in the city, and I noted that Syracuse.com had addressed the south side, being somewhat abused compared to the university area, and I see that you did something about that, and I applaud that. But like I said, when you're at 64.5%, it creates unequal situations, and this is one of them. So, for example, he just bought this property, and of course, they pinned the purchase price as the assessment. Now, he's going to say that he didn't do that, but that's effectively what it is that happened. His assessment was increased 20%, even though there was no inventory changes.
So just to confirm, on April 21st of 2022, the owner paid $150,000?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right, and I also provided a copy of the appraisal, the bank appraisal, and what you need to know about a bank appraisal, for those who aren't familiar, is that it was done, it is somewhat out of context. Obviously, it's the bank's methodology, it has nothing to do with assessments. But what I did is I used their comparables, and then I did my own analysis. I also provided the home inspection so you can see photos of the property. it would be good for people to see that in order to make a determination. But,
So let me just ask you. Let me ask you a few questions. This property was on the open market, was it?
it was not on the open market.
No, so it was non-MLS?
It was not in the MLS. It says that it's arm's length in the records, but that's not, well, you know, it depends. It's a bit of a semantics. He bought it from a friend who took it over from his grandmother. So it was never on the market.
All right, so that's fine, but he determined it was worth $150,000 to him.
That's right.
Okay, so, that is a form of, analysis with respect to market value, correct?
Sure, it sure is. However, you know, we
Okay,
need to abide by the law when it comes to those things.
okay, meaning what?
Well, you can't selectively assess the property.
Right,
Okay, you can use the sale, but you need to have other comps to go with it.
okay, which I think they do, but, okay, all right, so I just wanted to, so.
Well, they do, but they haven't given it to me,
You know,
so that we can have an apples and apples conversation. That's the problem we're having here. If they would provide me with the data, I can look at it, compare, and if it turns out they're right, then I wouldn't even be here wasting everybody's time. But they refuse to give me the data. I don't, you know,
Okay, and-
why?
And I think we've, done that sometimes when people have requested. Do you have comparables?
I have comparable sales. I'm just gonna say,
Wait a minute,
This
can I
person-
finish? Can I finish, and then he can
Okay.
respond,
All
and
right,
then
go
I get to
ahead.
respond?
Yep.
Okay, so anyway, I wish everybody would have a copy of this.
I got it.
But my client's
copies
property
before
is
you
right
come.
here, this little dot right here. Okay? And right next door, those people received no increase. And these other little dots up and down the street received no increase. And you see this, just one block over, no increase, no increase, no increase, no increase, no increase. Now, some of these were increased 5%, some of them were increased 10%. I think there was one that was even 25%, and there was a few that were 20%. But his was increased 20%. And why, now, you know, there's been no inventory changes. So,
Two-minute warning.
there's no inventory changes. We would accept a market increase, but not 20%. It has to be quantifiable. So if they had a 8% or 12% market increase, we'd be okay with that. But 20 is an awful round number. How do these round numbers? It gives the impression that it was not generated quantitatively. It looks like they just clicked their mouse and winged it, is what it looks like. I'll do this one, I'll do this one, I'll do this one. But you see these up and down this street? Those are severely unequal situations.
Well, again, though, those, if they weren't increased last year, or this year, then that's where they left off, and they can only do so many in a year, and then they'll get.
You
to
could if
those
you were at
ones.
100%.
Well, that's a whole nother
Yeah,
story.
well, you get paid to do a job and you don't do it, it's called fraud. Yeah. So anyway, so, you know, think what you may about that situation. Next door neighbor, no increase. Some of them are 5%, some of them are 10%. But the next 3 blocks are nothing. Strikes me as unequal. But I did, if you look at my petition, I used the sales that the appraiser used, and I analyzed them for you. And so, 117 Harding sold for 150. The assessment fair market value was 131. It was a 17K increase. 209 Parish, which is very close by, sold for 156. 153, 488 fair market value, 10K assessment increase. 201 Maplewood, I mean, it's in the thing, you can look at it, but here's one, it's, sold for 159, it's assessed, fair market value at 145, 736.
Time.
Sold for 159.5, assessed at 144, 186, so on and so forth. So, it's unequal. It's unequal. Pin the purchase price, increase it 20%, you know, somewhat randomly, or maybe he can explain why it's not random, but, you know, it's just, it's severely unequal.
All right, let's go over to the city, see what you have to say.
yeah, I don't even know how to begin to address this. This person called me and he treated me exactly like he's treated you guys.
I've never spoken to you in my
Yes,
life.
you have.
I have never spoken to you in my
I
life.
wrote this down. You absolutely asked for you wanted to see my comps immediately. I told you that I'd be glad to share them with you when we.
Oh, okay, I know the conversation.
Oh, stop! You don't interrupt me now.
Now, you go ahead.
Don't interrupt me. You're dealing with.
Just
law
talk.
enforcement.
Don't talk down to me, Buster. Just talk.
Okay.
Go ahead.
As you know, I've got over 40 years in the industry. I was a salesperson. I am a real estate appraiser. I'm a senior real estate appraiser. I can guarantee you I've forgotten more about real estate than you know.
Oh, yeah?
That's what I'm gonna say. I have comparable sales. You got offers, number one, you didn't look at the first property. Number two, you did happen to take a look at this property. And yes, this property, perfect comp is the sale itself. The sale itself is a comp.
You need a little bit more.
I have all kinds of sales in the neighborhood that support them. All right, you want an address, 202 Parish Lane, perfect comp.
It's because it's the same
209
house.
209 Parish Lane, perfect comp. 189 Fisco, sold for a little bit less, a little bit smaller. 202 Oakley, sold for 148. Another one on Fisco. They're here, these are my sales. I did not even bring it up to what he paid for it. Did not attempt to bring it up to what he paid for it. The assessment is lower than what he paid for it. The individual paid what he paid for the property, established market value. Now, with that said, this gentleman's a broker. And he advertises, he sends out flyers into the neighborhoods to try to drum up business. He's a commercial broker. He's a commercial broker. I don't know how much he does, residential work he does. I've got a copy of a couple.
What's that got to do with fair market value?
It has everything to do with it. Because you've attacked the city of Syracuse, I'm gonna defend it, okay? You don't know what you're doing. You may be a SCAR hearing officer.
I don't know what I'm doing?
I was a SCAR hearing officer also. and I'm
Rather
going to-
argumentative, isn't it, sir?
So I'm gonna defend the city of Syracuse. The sales I have offered you more than support what I assessed the property for. This gentleman works on a contingent basis. And if he doesn't win anything here, his advertisement says he doesn't get paid. I mean, he's coming in aggressive. He's insulted every single person in this room so far with the way he presents his case. The board's gonna make their own decision. I want them to make a fair decision. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right,
Good. Well, he provided you with comps.
so my question
And
is, do you
if
wanna
he had
take-
provided them to me, we could have an intelligent conversation right now.
All right, so.
But we
do you
can't.
Do you want to make note of these comps?
I can't talk about them because I would have to take the time to analyze them. But if he'd given them to me in the first place, we could have an intelligent conversation right now. But we can't, which is indication that they're just deny. Give me the data and we can have an intelligent conversation and it doesn't have to get contentious. But if you sandbag me, I get contentious. I'm a nice guy, but I am a nice guy.
All right,
And,
all right. So let's,
I haven't accused you of anything.
Yes, you have.
If I called you an intellectual celibate, wouldn't you be offended?
I don't even know what that means.
There's your answer.
all right, so let's cut it, I think. All right, so you don't want these addresses?
I want it when I ask for it.
All right.
Okay,
So
so
you
I don't think we can
establish
have a productive hearing.
All right.
Unless they provide the data and we can compare apples and apples. These cases would be so simple if we could just.
We've already heard
just-
this, we're at time.
And-
We don't
and,
need to repeat ourselves.
I'm not talking to you, man.
Really?
All right,
I'm the
She can
timekeeper.
tell him and he can tell me.
And I'm telling him right now that we're ending this here.
we are over the time limit, but we wanted to give you every opportunity.
Well, I appreciate that you're giving me the appearance of having every opportunity. But you're This fellow is an expert, but he came into my client's property, and he starts taking pictures of his tenant's computer. Leads me to believe he doesn't know the difference between real property and chattel. So,
That's not what occurred in this.
why are you
that's
taking
not-
pictures of guys' computers?
I'm a real estate appraiser,
Time.
and I did not take. I
They're
took a
computers,
picture
they're-
of the room
they're not
of the
real
work we
property.
did, sir.
All right,
You could-
so
you could-
I think we've heard enough, and we'll take everything into consideration that you have stated, as well as what the city submitted, and,
I appreciate you taking all the time,
yep,
but I'd appreciate if you'd ask these people to just give me the data, so we don't, this doesn't have to be ridiculous, you know? You know, it's public information. They're entitled to, they are required to provide it by law. So if they want to violate New York state law, and you're okay with that, then, you know, that's how it will go. And yes, I do charge a percentage. Each person is different. But basically, I'm at the point where any client that I have to deal with, I have to tell them, if you want me to help you, you need to agree to go to Supreme Court from the get-go. Because we're getting sandbagged. This whole bar is, I watched every one of your hearings from 2021, and I listened to them from 2022. I don't believe you provided a single commercial property a reduction. It's a little hard to tell because it's all disorganized data. And you know, it's just, apparently you have some approach where you just denied. And as far as the residential that you gave like 25 grand here. You said, your father was a wonderful man. You gave him 25,000, you gave this and that. I just don't see any, I don't see as though people can get a fair hearing in these bar hearings, you know?
well,
I just don't see it.
you've been heard.
You know, thank you for hearing me.
All right, thank you. The city will send you a couple of notices, or we'll send you a couple of notices.
I'd like to know when your meeting is, when you discuss all of this. I'd like to know when that is, because I intend to be there. So can you please let me know when that is?
Pursuant to
Those are closed sessions.
pursuant
It's
to
a public meeting.
Pursuant to public officers law, executive session
Not when
is
we, yeah, those are executive sessions where. we
Well, we'll
do
check with the Committee on Open Government on that. I don't believe that's true, but we'll get into it.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming in.
Okay.
All right, I think is that it?
That is it.
That is it. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting today.
So
Yeah,
moved.
no problem. So moved. Do I have a second? Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.